Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to episode number 6 in our Oxygen Not Included Redux series. I spent a lot of time this week working on some experimental builds and playing around with different things, and realized that there's quite a few options of where we can go right now. And when it gets like that, sometimes it frustrates me because when I have too many things that I can do, I try to do everything all at once, and it frustrates me. So I'm going to just focus on one thing at a time and get that done, and then proceed forward, and hopefully that'll work best for me. So the first thing I'm doing is, while it's not strictly necessary to get rid of this polluted oxygen, I'm just tired of looking at it. It's not very pretty. It's outside the base. The duplicants don't breathe it anyway. Even if they did, it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but I want to get rid of it. So I ran a power line that goes all the way up here, and all that's on it is these deodorizers. Right now it's only using 75 watts of power maximum, 80 now. I think a couple of them are still being constructed. And all they do is turn the polluted oxygen into oxygen, all up and down along this area. I figured that that was a good thing to start with because I also am going to need that power soon for the next couple of projects that I'm building. So what I want to focus on is building a cooling system for our food. It's a big priority to me. But in order to get to that point, we need to build research stations so that we can research the steam turbine. So the first thing we're going to set up is up at the top here. We're going to build a little research area. And so the first thing we need for that is just our regular research station again. And then we need a supercomputer. And then we're going to need a material study terminal. And these cannot be rotated. So I'm going to put it on this side, because I want to make sure when I build it, there's no way a duplicate can stand in front of the rad bolt. Now, the next thing we need in order to make that work is to build a rad bolt generator. We're going to use some rad bolt reflectors to bring it to us. So let's work our way backwards. We'll put one here, and then we'll put one up here. It will rotate to go that way, and that means our rad bolt generator can go right below that. So to get rad bolts, we're just going to use a method using Weezewarts, which means I need, I always forget how many I need. I think I need 3 spaces under. So if I go like this and like that is how I want to do it. Which means duplicates will come in on this side. They will take care of the Weezewarts, and they will not go in front of the rad bolts. The rad bolts are going to be shooting upwards anyway. And so we can do a 5th one like this. And then that means the Weezewarts will surround the rad bolt generator. They'll shoot out rad bolts into our material study terminal. To make that work, we're going to need some automation. Come from here over to the... Oh, I did that incorrectly. That's how I want it. I'm leaving a gap because what we need is a NOT gate. Because as it is, it would turn that rad bolt generator off when the material study terminal is empty, and we want it to do it when it's full. So the NOT gate just inverts that signal, and then we're all set. Okay, so next thing we need to do is put some tiles underneath here. We're going to do airflow to help get air through the base. And put that there. We're going to leave the 2 here as a gap. Again, it's not necessary because we're shooting the rad bolts up, but I'm just going to leave them empty. That way I don't have anybody going near that end of the terminal. And then now all we need to make this work after that is power. And so we're just going to patch off of this line that we already made. And that'll all go up here. So we have the power to it. We have research stations. I will also want to do some lights above these, because now power is not such an issue. The light will generate the lit workspace buff, meaning that we can get the research done a little bit faster at the expense of a little bit of power and a little bit of heat, neither of which I mind. So then we need our lead, and we're just gonna go up like this and straight up off of this one. So all we need to do is get all that built, and then we'll be ready to do research. The next thing we need to do is set up our researcher, because we don't currently have one. So in our skills, Adams here is the one that I'm going to use for research, because I've just reset him. Now the big thing is now that he has been running around for a while, his athletics is a little bit higher, but his is only at 9. Let's see, let's find one that has a little bit higher of athletics. Fillmore has 20, so I think I'm going to reset Fillmore, and we're going to use Fillmore, and then I'll show you, once they're reset, why I chose to do that. So let's just get them scrubbed, and then once they're scrubbed, I will come back and show you how I'm going to set up their skills. Fillmore has been reset in the skill scrubber, which brings their athletics down to 10 without the skill points assigned. So the reason that I am choosing to use one that has slightly higher athletics is because now that our athletics are high enough, the reason we were doing the exosuit training was to get rid of the exosuit penalty that was slowing them down while they're outside the base. If their athletics are higher, or 10 or higher, then losing 6 athletics means that they're still fast enough to get their work done, which means I can just put Fillmore's points into applied science, which is what we need. Their morale needs not going to be so high that they're going to get stressed out, and that's going to help us with keeping them de-stressed while we still don't have all of our morale bonuses put into the base. So let's find Fillmore. Probably under priorities is the easiest way to get to them. So if we click on them here, we'll bring them up. Now we're on slow speed. I want to follow them. You can see now they don't have the exosuit training buff. So when they're not in an exosuit, they do move faster, but it's not significantly slower when they're in the exosuit. So I'm okay with them going out and doing stuff without that on, and that's important. So now they have a applied science research hat on, which means they can come up and do our research when this area is built. So the last thing we need to put into our research center up here is to put in our wart seeds. That's what's going to provide the radiation for us to have rad bolts to send to our material studies terminal. So we'll work on setting up our research as soon as we finish building all these terminals. Everything is now built. One last wheezewort to get fertilized, but the rad bolt generator is collecting rad bolts. You just saw it shoot off rad bolts into our material study terminal. So our material study terminal has 49 out of 100. This will shut off collection once we reach maximum. It's all set up and good to go. Now all we need to do is pick our research. First research we're going to do is for renewable energy so that we can get our steam turbine, because that's the project that we want to work on. But the setup we have there for research will get us all the research in the next tier, all the way down to here. And then once we go past that, we have to get into the I forget what it's called, the data analysis research, which means we need to start researching data packets, which in the long term means we need to go to space. So that'll be a little while. We're focusing on small projects one at a time. So the next thing we want to do, once that steam turbine is unlocked, is build our coolant system for our food, And for now, I'm just going to build a very small one right here and get it set up so we have deep freeze. Because in the long term, I plan on moving all this base anyway. I don't want to spend hours working on a system for cooling when I'm not going to be doing it in that spot for a long term. So our steam turbines are 3 blocks tall, so I want to leave space for that. It's going to go right under here. So we're going to build our aqua tuna chamber under that. So let me leave this open just so for us to build. We're going to want to deconstruct those ladders that go across the top here. We'll build this the whole way across. I'm going to do a very similar setup to what I've done in the past, where I use a reservoir so that I have a large batch of coolant. Steam turbine, so the reservoir will go there. Steam turbine is 5 blocks across, and that'll be the end. Okay, so we're going to go like this. Now I want to build this setup with the idea that we're going to be going into it in mind, because I'm going to be... Actually, you know what? This one I know exactly what we're doing, so we don't need to have any way to get back in. That'll be fine. So I'm going to let that build up, and I'm going to let the research done. While I do that, I'm going to be using petroleum for our coolant system. So I need to run a cable from here. That's granite, that's fine. And then this needs to come all the way out, then up. To here, and across. And right here we're going to put a liquid bridge on it, just so that when it gets built, it'll start running the petroleum up to us. So now we have dupes can work on that while we're finishing up the build here. Always take more copper. Never a problem. So to get up here, so that they can actually do that work, let's do it like that. I think that should be okay. Let's check our research progress. Flying through it. Good deal. So inside of our system here, we're going to need to have a steel aqua tuner. We're going to need to have automation for that, so we want the, which I think it's under plumbing, liquid pipe thermosensor, also made out of steel. And then we're going to connect the automation from this to that. Also want to use steel. Probably get away with some of that not being in steel, but I'd rather just spend the steel and be sure that it's going to work. I changed the autosave to be once every 5 cycles, but it still manages to happen right when I'm recording, every time. I'm going to get rid of this tile so that I can put a bottle empty here like this and like this, so we can fill this up. Then we're going to have a liquid reservoir right here. We can start working on the plumbing. So we're going to have a loop that comes out of here into here. Ooh, what's that pipe? That is my pipe coming up from my slush geyser. I'm going to redirect it, because I'm going to need that space for this build. Eventually we'll have a pipe that comes up here, and then it'll come over 2, 3, 4, 5 to here. Actually, no, that's not right. we're gonna have a, yeah, that is right. I'm sorry. So plumbing, we'll have a radiant loop that goes like this. We'll need a bridge that goes like this. An insulated pipe that goes back in. We'll need an insulated pipe that comes from here over to here and down, and a steel vent here. That'll make more sense once we actually have the steam turbine in, after we pull the bottle emptiers out. Okay, so bottle emptiers, I want to set them as water. Enable auto bottle 6. That setting can be copied over here. Okay, so now we just need to wait for this to start getting filled with water and for the rest of the build to complete before we can progress. Our steam turbine is almost full of water. I could have used a lot of different methods to do this and do a smaller amount of water so that I could just not have to wait for it to fill up to the point where it goes into the second tiles, but it wasn't that big of a long wait. So with that done, I can disable these and get rid of them. And then we can seal this room up. Just double check to make sure we have everything in. So I have power going to here. It comes from this grid, and it also connects to the main grid. I have a automation shut off so that if the power in the battery here drips below 30%, then pull power in from the main grid, but otherwise use its own power. I have our piping for our coolant loop going through. It comes out of the reservoir, it goes up to our deep freeze, where there are 2 radiant pipes that will do the cooling, and then it comes back down. It hits this sensor. If it is above -20, it gets cooled again, and then it gets sent on. If it comes here and it doesn't need to be cooled, it will bypass and go this way so that it continues to flow all the time. That loop then goes up to here, cools off of all of our items here as far as the power and the steam turbine, and then it goes back into our reservoir and starts the loop all over again. And then as far as automation for that, that's all connected. So we have everything we need in our reservoir here. Everything's cleaned out, so we can seal this up. We can now put in our steam turbine, assuming our research is finished. Not quite. Sure, let's take a pufflet. Let's immediately turn that pufflet into meat. Okay, so this will need to get finished. The research is still ongoing, so we'll have to get that done. The next thing I have set up is I ran a pipe here to go, let me disconnect these a while, to go up from our chlorine tank. And the reason that we're doing that is that we have chlorine stored. We want to bring it down here and put it into this space so that our food is in a chlorine atmosphere. That'll keep it from getting germy. Oh, our oxygen got messed up because of that flow. That's alright, it'll fix itself. So these pipes are getting finished. The pipes from the petroleum coming up from the bottom also getting finished. The research is getting finished. The next thing we can do is this little liquid lock here is just a little temporary one that I threw together just to get this one little spot vacuumed out, and I don't have the mini gas pump yet. I'll have to research that too. So we'll wait on that we'll wait on the research for that to work. As far as the automation here goes, I set up my fridges. Eventually these are going to be set up just to store 1 kilogram each so that the auto sweeper can pull the food out of our deep freeze and only keep one of each item available for our duplicants. Anything that is not stored in these fridges, I have set to go up to the main storage. Main storage, I have it set for anything edible or fruit ingredients to bring brought up here. That way this auto sweeper can cook it and send it back down. This is anything in the finished products gets sent down to our deep freeze. For the moment, because we have those fridges are the only thing we have to keep them from going stale, all the food is being pulled out and put in here. So I'm making frost buns just to use up the sleet wheat. So we have 21 kilograms of that stored. We have barbecue stored in this one. Eventually, oh, and we have medicine stored in here too. That's fine. Let's take that out and then put it in here. And I want to make sure any medication doesn't get sent back up to main storage, and we can make it so that this one does send down meds and this one pulls them out of main storage. That way if any medication gets dropped in here, it gets sent up here, and then it gets sent down to here and thrown into this fridge. Doesn't need to be refrigerated, but it's a nice place to keep it for now. Okay, so we need to finish the piping that we're doing for the chlorine, which is very close to being done. We need to finish the piping that we're doing for the petroleum, which is almost done. And then we need to let our research get finished for our steam turbine. And then we also need to research, and that would be under plumbing, probably liquids. Oh no, gases. We need to get our mini gas pump. Where are you? Here it is. It's under plastic, under power. Okay. So that's our next thing after we get the steam turbine done. So we'll be back once we have all the parts we need to finish the build. Steam turbine research is finished. So this is all built. I did add in a liquid lock here at the end and a gas pump. I'm going to be pumping all the gas out of here. I left just a little bit so things don't start overheating at really high levels. If it's a vacuum, there won't be any heat transfer able to be done, and everything will start to overheat. It's going to take a while for this water to turn into steam, but once it does, this steam turbine will create some power for our system, hopefully sustaining itself, but we also have power coming in if we need it. Right now we're running off of grid power. We're working on our next research, which is the mini pump. That's going to be put in here so we can pump out the gas that's in this tile. We'll let in chlorine, which we already have lined up, and then we will empty this pipe out and we will connect it up to our hydrogen line, which we still need to run so that we can do it. We have a vent here to put hydrogen in. It's absolutely unnecessary that it's hydrogen inside this room, but hydrogen is a better conductor and it'll help the heat transfers, so I'm going to put it in there just for fun. So we're just waiting on the research to get this finished up. We're going to work on getting a line from hydrogen over here so that when the chlorine is empty, we're good. Do I have overloading going on here? I think that was just left over from when I was changing over the power grid. Let me get that fixed. And then we'll get this all sealed up, and then we'll be done with this project for today. You can see the liquid's already going down. The petroleum in there is already at minus 21. It's bringing down the temperature of this metal tile and the air inside here rather quickly. So it shouldn't take us long to get deep freeze state once we do that, and then we'll put all of our food back into there. And just in time, we're starting to stockpile food, so that's good that it's going to stay deep frozen. Research for our gas pump, mini gas pump, is done. We're getting that built, and that's going to pump all the gas out of here to make this a vacuum. And then we'll put the chlorine in. So it's just going to take a few minutes to get that done. We will remove the vent and the pump and switch it so that we can put gas in instead of taking it out. There's very little gas in here, so it shouldn't take it long to get that emptied out at all once we get it built. And then I did set up a hydrogen line coming over from our hydrogen base to fill this line up once we pull the chlorine out, so that we can continue it down to put hydrogen into here. So we're very close to having everything done. As far as the temperatures go, if you look at the metal tile, it's already at -6. It's getting there very quickly. Said this petroleum is down to -23, so it's going to keep on transferring its cold into this area until it's down to that temperature, which is what we want. So once this gets finished, we'll just have a few things to wrap up and we'll be completely done with our deep freezer. Okay, we got the gas pump pulled out. We put in a high pressure gas vent. We came very close to having a serious problem here. The temperature froze this piece of water. This one is the only thing left holding us from having all of this break. But we'll get it done. I left just enough chlorine in the pipe to get this to the point where I want it. There's 9 kilograms of chlorine in there. So we're going to take a tile and we'll do it. Use a... No, we'll just break this out. I got to put a tile right here to seal that chlorine in. And then once we're sure it's all working, we'll remove this. A little bit of chlorine here will escape into the base. Not a big deal. Our pumps will handle it as it works its way where it needs to go. So then all we need to do is, while we're waiting for that to get finished, let's disconnect this. We can come up here and connect our hydrogen line to here, which should make hydrogen start pumping down. We can connect our hydrogen line to here, and we can reconnect this power. Oops. Reconnect this power so that this vacuum finishes pumping out, and then immediately we'll start putting the hydrogen in so that we don't end up causing too much heat problems in here. Just going to take that a minute to get pulled out. So this has 9 kilograms of chlorine that is at -18 degrees already, which means any food put in here is going to be in a deep freeze status. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this to 1 kilogram. Actually, I think I'm going to do it 2. And then we will also make this 2 kilograms all the way across. So I have 5 different types of food it's storing, because that's what we have in our system right now. Just 5 different types of food that can be eaten. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to drop the barbecue and put it back up. And then I will drop our frost buns and then put it back in, so it just puts 2 kilograms in. Same thing with cooked seafood. And then this one is for our omelets. And this one is our roast grub fruit nut, which I don't think we even have 2 kilograms of, so it won't be an issue. And then temporarily, just long enough to pick up what's on the ground, I'm going to go in here to our edibles, and we'll put barbecue in, and we'll take it. Oh, gotta wait for the pipe to take it, and then we'll take it off. So when it comes back in, it'll stay in the deep freeze. And then we got to do the same for the frost bun, because there's frost buns on the floor. Okay. And so now we have 2 kilograms of each. It's all those other, for the rest of the food is going to cycle through the system and end up back here. Currently it looks like we have no calories because all that food is in the pipes, but it will all come back. And now we go to the barbecue and we can see it's currently refrigerated, lower than -18 should make it deep frozen. Let's see what the temperature is here. Oh, it's -16. It's still evening out. So if we look at our pipes, this is still coming in at -24. Once this metal tile gets down consistently lower, it's still dropping. This chlorine will cool off much faster, and then all of this should hit deep freeze. There we go. Frost buns are at deep freeze, barbecues at deep freeze. So now we are set. As long as we still have power going to this system, we will have food that lasts forever. Let's see how the gases are here. It's almost done. So we're just waiting for this to form a vacuum, and then we will put hydrogen in here, and we will be all finished with this project except for a little bit of cleanup. We have pulled a vacuum in this room, so I paused it. We're going to disconnect the pump first. We don't want to be pumping gases back out. And then here we can connect this. It's connected to our hydrogen line. So when we resume, this hydrogen will pump out. And we'll let this go until it completely fills the room full of hydrogen. Hydrogen is one of the best gases for conducting temperature, so that's why we're putting it in here. It's not super necessary. I just thought, since we're going to be closing it in anyway, let's fill it with hydrogen. The reason we're definitely closing it in is because we're using the coolant line from our deep freeze to cool off the steam turbine and the power. And that line is minus 25 degrees. And so we do not want that cold spreading in to get into our base or around the other areas. A little bit of it wouldn't be a problem to lower the temperatures, but we definitely do not want our critters to get down to minus 20 degrees and things like that. So we still have everything here. Now it's at refrigerated. It's going back and forth because the temperatures are stabilizing. But once this is all finished and running and has found a balance, this system will be at deep frozen forever. I'm not quite sure why it's jumped up in temperature so quickly, to be honest. Still have the gas in there. Finishing up the last few bits of cleanup around here, but I wanted to point out one last thing about this deep freeze to make it clear why this works. So this is our frost bun. It's currently in a deep freeze sterile state because it's in chlorine that is less than minus 18 degrees. If you look at the frost bun itself, its temperature currently is 4 degrees, 3 degrees. It's dropping, but it's 3 degrees. So the item itself is not technically deep frozen because it's not at minus 18 yet. But as soon as the food gets put in here, because the air around it is less than minus 18, it becomes deep frozen. So we can throw in barbecue at high temperatures, frost buns at high temperatures, any food we want. It will stay in here deep frozen as long as it doesn't raise the temperature of the chlorine above minus 18. And as we are sending in minus 25 degree, well, minus 27 degree petroleum to cool it, this air is always going to stay below minus 18. So now that as long as this system runs, we will always have a deep frozen status in this tile. And since all of our food is going to be stored in this tile, and this auto sweeper is going to make it available to our duplicates in small batches, then our food will last forever, because when it's deep frozen, it doesn't go stale. I did make some changes to move some of our other piping around. I didn't think it would really matter too much, but having the oxygen and the other coolant that is going to be at different temperatures going right around here didn't make a lot of sense to me, so I just redirected it around our refrigerated area. I'm going to fill in this area down here just with tiles just to fill the gap. I moved our oxygen vent down a little bit just mostly for aesthetics. It's not necessary. This will work just fine the way it is forever. And so when we do end up moving our base, we'll just have to replicate this system. But this system is what we'll use all the way into the late game. Anyway, that's going to be the end for today's episode. That was the project I wanted to get finished, and I'm glad I got that entire project done. Next episode, I am going to be working on two things. It's going to be continuing this project here where we move the gases up. I want to get that finished. And I want to crack into the space biome. Because up here in the regolith, we have shovels that have been just chilling. And if we dig in here, we're going to find food that has been sitting in the vacuum of space, deep frozen. I didn't want to dig into it until we had somewhere to put it. And we're also going to find shovel eggs. So we're going to work on building our gas setup here and then figuring out where we want to put a shovel farm, because that's going to be our food source going into late game, because I can ranch shovels without feeding them all the way to the end. And that will be our permanent food source. It's also the reason I have not really moved these stables around, because I knew that these were temporary. We're going to keep hatches so that we can produce a little bit of coal, but we're not going to keep quite so many of them. Anyway, that's going to do it for today. I hope you enjoyed watching the episode, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.